Hello, everyone, and welcome to Battlefield Breakdown, episode number 4, brought to you by Turn 'em Sideways. I am Blevins, and we've had one of the most exciting weekends of Riftbound yet. We've had the largest and first real in-person Riot event in Guangzhou. We had not one, but 2 RiftLab Clash events as well. I'm going to go through and talk about some awesome decks and different insights that came from those events. So make sure you are staying tuned. I won't hold you too long, but there is not one, but 2 really cool Teemo lists that you're going to want to stick around and hear about. But before we get into that, make sure you're liking and subscribing to the YouTube channel here on Turn 'em Sideways. We've got a lot of content. If you haven't seen it already, The Winning Point is the podcast that myself, Casanova, Pastry Time, and Charmer do every week about General Riftbound. We've got all sorts of other content, including the English rebroadcasts that we're doing of these Chinese in-person events and other awesome events like Fight Nights, which are coming back here soon. So make sure you are checking out and subscribing to the channel if you have not already. But without further ado, let's jump in to some events, starting with Guangzhou. We had the first in-person event here, and it was taken down by Kaisa. This is Foxsad's Kaisa list here. We saw a lot, and I mean a lot, of Kaisa at this event. There were 4 in the top 8. The entire top 8 here was Kaisa in first place, Master Yi in second place. The rest of the top 4 was 2 Kaisa decks, and then to round out the top 8, we had Master Yi, Teemo, Viktor, and yet another Kaisa. So we saw this list. We've seen this looks like a very standard Kaisa build with a few notable changes here. Sprite Mother, I think across the board, has gotten shaved down to 2 copies. It's a card that many of the competitive players that I've been talking to don't really like in the Master Yi matchup. So it's been cut down to 2 in the main deck, and it's still a very, very strong card, but it's not as generically powerful as we've seen, or as we may have initially thought. Noxus Hopeful is a recent addition that just allows you to have a really strong tempo play where you can use a cheap removal spell or a cheap spell and also have a follow-up 4 might play in the Noxus Hopeful. And right now we're seeing Poros being played in just about every deck, as they are some of the best 2-drops for most of the colors. We even got the Pouty Poro. And of course, we've got good old RBS, Raven Bloom Student there, the most played card in the entire top 8 of the event. So congratulations to Foxhead. They got the awesome Misfortune promo trophy thing. It looks amazing. Super, super excited about that and for them. But let's move on to second place here. This was Master Yi. This was another quite standard list that we've seen. Nothing too crazy here. We've got 2 copies of Primal Strength. We've got the full complement of White Flame Protectors. We've got the full complement of Carnivorous Snapvines, Kianas, really a lot of what we would expect to see. Disciplines, Defies, On Guard, Charm, Pit Rookie. A lot of 3-ofs in this deck. Clockwork Keeper is one that we maybe have not seen up until the last couple of weeks in all of the Calm decks, but it is certainly a mainstay here. And Master Yi, notably, we'll talk a little bit more about it in a little bit, but was the most played deck in the entire tournament going into it. So a very, very popular deck in the Chinese meta and even in the English meta as well. But let's move on to another deck here. This is, all right, I didn't want to make you wait too long. Here is the Teemo list that top 8'd the first Guangzhou Regional event here. This is a pretty, what I would consider standard, if you can even call it that, build for Teemo, like we theorize may come out. It's very heavily built around the hidden mechanic. We've got Consult the Past, Ember Monk, of course, both copies of Teemo, the Blast Cone Fae. We've got Nocturnes in here. And of course, the synergy there, of course, with Nocturne and the blue Teemo stack deck, making it really strong. Fight or Flight, of course, is a card that has the hidden ability as well. Very, very strong usage of hidden. Got a couple of Dr. Mundos in the main deck as well. kind of a breakout event for Dr. Mundo here, as it is that over-the-top finisher that a lot of these decks have lacked in previous builds. And of course, Thousand-Tailed Watcher, Sprite Mother, Ravenbloom Student in the full complement there. So very, very good performance from Teemo. It was played quite a bit, a decent amount. We'll go over the full stats of that later on here, but very, very strong showing. And first event, first top 8. Last thing I want to talk about here in the Guangzhou event is the Viktor deck, a very popular deck in this event, one that we saw in the English meta be very popular early on, and it has sort of waned in popularity since. We see it pop up every once in a while. It'll make a top 8 here or there, but nothing too crazy. I've actually heard a lot of mixed opinions from different competitive players that I've talked to or have seen talk about Viktor. Some saying that it actually is a very strong deck, even though it is very straightforward and basic. Others saying that it's a joke, fake. Once players actually understand Riftbound, we're not going to see a lot of Viktor anymore. I'm not really sure where I stand on it, but the results speak for themselves here. Top 8 appearance from Viktor in a very standard list. In general, from what we've seen, we do see the grand stratagems, the Thousand-Tailed Watchers in full effect here. Sprite Mother actually going up to 3 copies in the Viktor deck as you're able to utilize the material that the Sprite Mother creates even better. Of course, Call the Weaks and Hidden Blades, Stupefy, Ravenbloom Student, and Smokescreen. Of course, you're playing blue, you're playing those cards. Very, very strong deck there. So those are the decks I wanted to focus. The rest of the decks are Kai'Sa decks. You can take a look at those online if you'd like. Silver Archive, of course, has those decks as well. They're out there if you want to take a look at the different variations of Kai'Sa. The one note I will say is that one of the top 8 Kai'Sa decks ran 0 Sprite Mothers, which is interesting to me. But besides that, pretty standard Kai'Sa list there for the rest of the top 8. So congratulations to everyone who top 8'd. Was really cool to watch that event. I got to come in at the end of the English rebroadcast where Casanova had been streaming for 10 and a half hours. Kavira was in there. Charmer was in there. Mo made an appearance as well. I got to pop in at the end, and it was more of a watch party than a formal cast, at least at that point when I popped in. So we had a lot of fun doing that. And make sure this weekend, actually, there's going to be another event in Beijing. So make sure to check out the Turn 'em Sideways YouTube for that rebroadcast, because we're going to be having a lot of fun there. So we've got some graphics here for the stats for the Guangzhou Open. We've got the overall most played champions going into the event. So we can see here Master Yi at the top, followed by Viktor, actually, second most played deck with 102. So this was it was capped at 512. I believe the total number that ended up playing on day one was 506. So over 500 players, obviously the biggest tournament we've had by far at this point. So 137 players on Yi, 102 on Viktor, 99 on Kai'Sa, 26 players brought Teemo, 24 brought Misfortune, was, I believe, lost their winning into top 8 the event, and then 23 brought Jinx. So you may be thinking, oh, is this graphic wrong? Set obviously needs to be in that top 2. Nope. Set is not on this list, and we'll talk a little bit more about that in a second. So I've also got some conversion data. So conversion from the total number to top 64, which was day 2, and then so some conversion data from total number of decks played on day 1, and then top cut in this case is day 2. We've got the highest conversion rate here is Annie. Only 5 players brought Annie, but 1 Annie did end up day 2ing. We've got a pretty high one for Master Yi as well. Goes without saying there, of course, a lot of players brought him. A lot of day 2, same with Kai'Sa. Then Darius, aka Darius here, did a pretty decent job of day 2ing, but we did not, of course, see them in the top 8. Same with Misfortune as well. So there's some more data there. Now, I've got a really cool, and again, apologies here for I'm assuming probably Chat GPT translation, so I'll do my best to go over this, but this is number of decks brought in, then the conversion rate again, and then the highest place that they finished. So Juggernaut on this graphic is Master Yi. They got second place, as we know. Kaisa, of course, was in first place here. Female gun. It took me a second to realize that is Miss Fortune. Teemo, of course, getting a top 8 and top 32. So you can see this. This is a good time to pause the video and take a look and ingest this information here if you'd like. Bear, of course, being Volley Bear. And Japanese girl, no, I know. It's Leona. And I made the same mistake. I also thought it was Yasuo. For Guangzhou, really amazing. The stage, the graphics on the screen were amazing. And all I will say is that really amazing event. Let me know in the comment section below what you thought of this event. Were the results what you thought they might be? They certainly weren't for me. I had a couple of closing notes here on the Guangzhou Regional. So the first one, it's a big elephant in the room. Where in the world is Set? If you're looking at results week to week in the English events on TTS that we've been covering, Set is a massive player there. We've seen a lot of players adopt Set here, and we just did not see really the conversion at all. Only 12 people brought Set in the Guangzhou event. So a very, 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 very small number. Of course, none day two'd, and obviously none top 8'd as well. So it was not only were not a lot of players bringing it, it wasn't a few specialists brought them and did well, just 12 players brought Set and just did not perform. There's a lot of things that can go into that. From what I've been hearing from a few inside sources that have been playing in China or were at the event, the Set sort of came into the Chinese meta very late compared to this event. So, obviously it's been very prevalent here in the US, and from what we've gathered, Chinese players are looking at the results of the US tournaments, but there just was not the time to prepare and build the lists and acquire the cards. Remember, that's the thing we need to do too, is acquire cards. It was just not something that more than 12 players at this event did. So of course we did not see the conversion rate. I would be surprised if coming into this next week, we don't see more Set, just given the dominance of Set in the English events. Of course, Teemo at the first major, top 8ing, is a very different list from the one that I will talk about here when we're talking about the RiftLab Clash, but it is sort of a very hidden focus deck. And, it's one thing if a lot of players brought Teemo and just raw numbers got there into the top 8. It is not you need to get lucky to top 8, but it is not all luck that will get you to a top 8. The deck has legs. The deck, I think, deserves more credit than we as a community in the English tournaments have been giving it. And I think if you're a Teemo player, if you're a Teemo enjoyer, if you want to play something that's a little bit outside of the meta, tier 1.5, tier 2, Teemo is something that you can brew and actually have results here. And the proof is in the pudding. We see a top 8. Same with Miss Fortune. I've heard a lot of rumblings about Miss Fortune. We've seen Miss Fortune Aurora do well in a couple of events and make some appearances here or there. We saw it played a decent amount in this event. We saw a good conversion rate into day 2. Not quite a top 8, but again, there's a lot of factors that go into top 8ing. Seeing it being played a lot is certainly something to look at because we have not really had the same numbers in the English tournament. So again, let me know in the comment section below what you thought about this event. Did it live up to your expectations? Did your predictions come true? I will say my prediction on the winning point did. I predicted a oddball chaos deck to top 8. Thank you, Teemo. You got my vote. So that's Guangzhou. Let's move on to the other event that happened this week. This is the RiftLab Clash 1 and 2. So a couple of notes here. If you're, of course, familiar with the RiftLab trials that we've covered on previous weeks that I got to cast, you know that was a 128 tournament. This is a little bit different. So these are RiftLab Clashes. I believe it was 4 or perhaps 5 rounds. When I cast, it was 4 rounds. So 4 rounds, and if you 4-0, you get points that will get you into a RiftLab trials in the future. So sort of feeder events here. So the decks that I'm talking about here were all XO in the event. It wasn't a 128 player. This is not the top 8. So a little bit of a different texture here to this event, but still a lot of good insights to go over. So let's take a look at that Teemo deck that I have been alluding to here. This one is amazing. This is Prismat, of course, who we've seen sort of really popularize and perform well with the Darius Hook deck. We've seen Prismat actually also use MF Aurora as well. Here we have a very different and a very cool Teemo list. I had the privilege of being able to cast the first round of this event with Prismat in it, and this was really a very different build of Teemo. Now, as you can see here, number of Nocturnes in the deck, 0. Number of blue Teemos in the deck, 0. Number of hidden cards in the deck, 2 different ones. We've got, 3. Fight or Flight, Consult the Past, and Purple Teemo are the only cards that actually have hidden in the deck. So this is not a hidden deck. This is a Mind Chaos Tempo deck. The card velocity in this deck is absolutely insane. The only deck that really comes close to it, or really the only deck that may have more than it, is Kaisa, possibly. It's running the full complement of Consult the Past, full complement of stack decks. You're getting through your deck very quickly. And by doing that, you're also filling up your trash. And by doing that, you are reducing the cost of a 3x in this deck. It is Rasa the Sunderer. This is the first time we've really seen this card used. It's a card that we saw during preview season, and I got a little bit excited about it. And I'll be honest, I forgot the card existed. It is a 10 energy unit that has 6 might, costs 1 purple power, and it costs 1 less energy for each card in your trash. So we were routinely seeing 1, 2, maybe I would say on average like 3 to 4 energy for a 6 might unit in Rasa the Sunderer. Prismat was able to play the tempo game, develop the board, use stupefies and gusts and stack decks, smoke screens to fill up the trash, control the board, and then end the game with multiple Rasa the Sunderers, Thousand-Tailed Watcher, of course, and Dr. Mundo. Absolutely massive Dr. Mundo's able to take over the game by going tall. This is the deck that I am probably the most excited about. This deck has made me more excited about deck building and playing new decks than any other since the since the Darius Hook deck. So those might be my two decks. I'm not sure, but this is certainly the blueprint that I'm going to start with here when I'm building in Riftbound. But let's move on to another cool deck that top aided. This is the Leona deck that was actually played here by Pedro Silva. So we see Leona putting up a good result here, going 4-0. The full complement of Shens. We've got 3 yellow Leonas, 1 green Leona. There's something about running both of the champions in your deck so that you can swap depending on the matchup, depending on if you're going first or second, between having one champion versus the other in your chosen champion slot. I really like that flexibility, the ability to do that. Zenith Blade, we saw, I got to cast a game of Leona. It was very, very powerful. It's attacking an axis that is not the standard Set, Master Yi, or Kaisa. And we're seeing these decks that aren't one of those 3 decks really be a source of inexperience for a lot of players, even top-level players. If you're going to test for an event, a big event like a regional, you need to focus your testing in on the most popular decks, and that allows for a deck like this to come in and perform well. So here's a great one if you are a Leona or a Stun enjoyer, to take this one as the blueprint for your deck. And of course, we've mentioned it a bunch already. Let's talk about another 4-0 deck here. This is the Darius, the Angie Pod. This has been a standard list for the last 4 weeks. I mean, we've talked about it on every single week of Battlefield Breakdown. I really, really enjoy the flexibility that this deck offers. There are so many decisions to make, but you can get so rewarded for making the correct one. When you play your hook, when you get your hook, how aggressively you're hooking. Are you using your hook to retreat your units? Are you going for more value plays? Are you trying to get points? Do you know your outs? Do you know you need to sacrifice some of your board position to go and try to hook for a vein? We saw that play happen in the RiftLab Clash. Really, really strong deck. It's a deck that I think if you pick up for the first time and just play it, you're going to do very poorly with it. It is not a deck like Viktor or Master Yi, where you can pick it up and you're like, oh, okay, I get what this is doing, and I'm going to make maybe suboptimal plays and do decent enough because the deck is so powerful. this deck is powerful, but its power is greater than the sum of its parts. You need to know how to line up the plays and play well, and this deck will reward you. And we're seeing players putting in a lot of time and effort, and they are getting the results here with it. Last deck to talk about from the RiftLab Clash here that went 4-0 is Lee Sin. This is one that I don't recall seeing very many Lee Sins in top 8s. It's, of course, not technically a top 8, but a 4-0 performance here. Very strong. I'm hearing whispers, mostly from Mo, but I'm hearing whispers around competitive players here that say Lee Sin is actually stronger than Master Yi. We're certainly not seeing that play out in the results, but maybe we'll slowly start to see that shift happen. We're seeing cards like Weisenel or Udyr really being able to get value in a way that Master Yi decks aren't able to utilize. We're, of course, still seeing White Flame Protector, Kiana, Discipline, Defy, On Guard, Charm. Those are stock standard for any green deck here. Stalwart Poro as well. You can see Stand United in the list. First Mate has turned into a staple body card here and is very, very strong. So I'm really excited after this week to see just how the meta shifts and changes. So much has been brought into it. So much has changed and has really shaken things up in this meta that we come into here. But final thoughts here on the RiftLab Clash. I mean, that Teemo deck is just absolute cinema, right? Just absolutely fantastic, insane, like a different angle. We're starting to see players innovate in a way that is, okay, I now understand the general power level of cards, and I can evaluate the general power level of cards in Riftbound in a way that we really have only kind of been able to up till this point. Now we're not just saying, oh, I'm playing Teemo, I'm going to play the hidden cards and build the hidden Teemo deck. That's what Teemo does. We're now seeing like, okay, Teemo gives me access to these domains. These cards from these domains are powerful. I'm going to use Teemo and lean into the hidden a little bit, but I'm going to use the access to the domains more so than the champion ability or the legend ability or champion that the deck provides, and lean 100% into that. We're just going to have a touch of hidden, get some synergy there, but play the good blue and purple cards in Teemo. So I'm really excited to see decks go outside of the sort of prescribed quote unquote box that may be there from Riot and just game design in general. Of course, Kai'Sa and Darius, if you look at the full list of top 4s, there's plenty of Kai'Sa decks, there's plenty of Set decks. Darius is still obviously performing very well here. So the meta is still very much in flux. Nothing is locked in stone at all, including, again, Leona making a strong performance, Lee Sin making a strong performance here. So again, the bottom line here is do not be thrown off by any given week or any given tournament's results. If you're like, I really hate the play pattern of Master Yi, guess I'm not going to want to play Riftbound anymore. Wrong. There's a ton of room to innovate, ton of room to bring a rogue deck and perform well even at these high level tournaments. The deck building innovation and well played games are still able to get you there. But that is going to be it for this Battlefield breakdown. Again, couple of reminders here: like, comment, and subscribe on to the Turn 'em Sideways channel. Again, ton of stuff going on. If you are hearing this when it releases this weekend, on the 30th is the Beijing Regional tournament. We're going to be doing the live English rebroadcast on the Turn 'em Sideways channel, so make sure you are showing up. I'm going to try to make an appearance there. Cass and all the crew are going to be there when we can and provide some awesome rebroadcast and just some commentary and a cool place to hang out for that event. Again, Fight Night coming up soon. But that is going to be it for Battlefield Breakdown. Stay tuned for tournaments that are going to be running here on Tournament Sideways. Make sure you like, commenting, and subscribing here because we've got other shows like The Winning Point. We've got Mo on here talking about stuff. We've got all sorts of great stuff here on Tournament Sideways already, and we've got plenty of stuff coming up. So thanks again for watching, and we'll see you on the next episode of Battlefield Breakdown.